What's wrong, Fred?
I'll pack a chainsaw. A skinny ass roll.
Just one of those days. All right, let me get situated here.
That's probably how Bill Gates feels.
Oh yeah, he
Oh, kitty fucker.
You think so?
Yeah, he was hanging out on the island, wasn't he?
Was he? I didn't know if he was one of the ones. What I really remember from that was the deposition where the guy asked Jeffrey Epstein if he had an egg-shaped penis. He was like, I'm just reading what it says here. It says that it's wider at the bottom and skinnier at the top, sir. It's like they were just trying to get a rise out of him, I guess.
It's like, as you can see here in item 117.
The accused.
This unsolicited dick pic that you sent to a 12-year-old? What a piece of shit.
Yes.
But he didn't kill himself.
No, he did not. Did you watch the documentary on Netflix? I don't know if it's still up there. It probably still is, but
I watched something. It might have been the documentary. Is that how he got started and everything? And there was that particular girl that they were kind of talking about. It was they were like, oh, we're gonna pay for your college, and it's like all you gotta do is give him a massage and jerk him off or something like that.
And then they tried to get her to bring other girls over, and they gave her $200 a girl or something like that. Which, considering how much money he has, it's like, not only are you a pedophile, but you're also a cheap ass.
Yeah, you're also a fucking piece of shit. It's like, look, if I'm be a sex trafficker for you, I'm gonna need some more money.
Yeah, for real. You're gonna have to keep the lights on here, Jeffy boy. You and your egg-shaped penis.
Look, Eggman.
Eggman.
Throw gold rings at him.
Well, let's bring the podcast in. Oh, I want to do one of those way too high energy YouTube intros. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
They're like, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of... Today we're going to be giving $500 to homeless people and see how they react. And then it does the bruh sound effect. And then every single fucking one of them are like that. I don't mean to tangent off on that, but I was going through YouTube today and just kind of, you go down a rabbit hole or whatever. Every single fucking one of them are like that. They're so...
we're giving Lambos to transvestite quadriplegics.
It's so fucking irritating. I hate it so much. Everybody wants to be the next Mr. Beast. But anyway, hello.
We're giving a house to a person who's addicted to crack.
And it does the bruh sound effect when they see it. I get on the other end of that, we could do an NPR intro.
Oh yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Thicc Boys podcast.
This is Reading with Wesley and Gary.
What are we reading today, Wesley?
We're reading books.
I didn't expect we're reading books. I was expecting a title. I didn't know how to...
Just some nondescript, we're just going to pick up a book and we're just going to read it.
I've got some books over here. Yeah. I'll thumb through a couple of the pages.
It's what is Mein Kampf?
You might want to put that one down.
Oh, wait, I have a copy of the Communist Manifesto.
The Anarchist Cookbook.
Yeah.
Well, hello and welcome to the episode 9 of the Thicc Boys podcast. We're slowly encroaching on episode 10.
Indeed.
I want to apologize that we missed literally every week in April, but we all had shit going on. I went on 2 vacations.
Hey, we don't get paid for this.
Yeah, well, yeah. And me and my wife both have, our birthdays are in April, so
there you go.
It is what it is.
You got things to do.
Wesley had a 3-year-old daughter who... was exploding out both ends.
Had it coming out both ends.
So we had that to deal with, but it's good to be back in the studio. I'm calling this the studio.
Yeah, it's the studio.
So it's good to be back in the studio. with Wesley here. We had some experiences over last month, didn't we?
We did. There's been some things that have happened, things that have gone on. Why don't you go ahead and start us off?
With my solicitor?
Yes, start off with the solicitor.
Okay. So I sent you the video of me standing in the yard with the guy. You can't really hear what's going on, but you can kind of tell by the body language, like how dejected he was. Here are the events that led up to that. I was at the grocery store. I was coming home. I stopped at the grocery store, pick up some groceries, and I've got the Ring security system. So when I get like a motion alert or whatever, and it says, hey, somebody's with the front, whatever, I check it. I'm like, oh, it's a solicitor. He'll leave when he realizes nobody's home.
Yeah.
So as I'm on my way home, Mary gets home before me. He sees her go in the house. So when I pull up, I see him walking up the steps again. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
So I get out of my truck, and he walks over, and, you know, I'm nice and cordial.
Yeah.
Everything is, so was he. He was, throughout this whole thing, he was very polite.
Yeah.
And he's telling...
I'm about to ruin your fucking day.
Well, he said, he was like, would you like to get a free estimate on a, like, home remodeling, whatever? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, I've got...
Kirby vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. And I was like, I've got some groceries I need to get in the house. And he's like, oh, this won't take but just a second. And I'm like, I've got like milk and chicken, like, you know. But anyway.
These are perishable items.
Yeah. So I let him go or whatever on his thing, and he starts asking me all these questions, like, when was your house built? Has the roof ever been redone? How many windows do you have? What kind of siding do you have? How many doors do you have? Yeah. Blah, 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 blah.
You're like, I don't know, dude. I just live here.
Yeah. What's a good phone number? What's a good secondary phone number? What's your email? What time are you usually home in the evenings? I mean, he asked me questions for probably about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm just giving him answers because I just want him to go away.
No.
And at one point, he's like, well, you know, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We'll schedule a free home estimate and everything, or a free remodeling estimate, whatever. I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm thinking we're on the home stretch of this thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, I just need to call our scheduling department. So he pulls his phone out and he makes his phone call. And we get like a like waiting music or whatever. So I'm just standing here. There's like 30 minutes have passed since I've come home with my groceries sitting in the truck still.
Yeah, the chicken's starting to stink.
Yeah, and we're waiting for this person to answer the phone. And so she finally answers the phone, and he's like, hey, I'm here with Gary, and he's interested in, our scam. And then she starts asking me, what year was your home built? Has the roof ever been redone? Just the same exact questions. So I'm just trying to get through this and get through this and get through this. I'm thinking I can brute force my way through this thing, but it's like, the further I reach in, the deeper the claws dig, right? Yeah. So at one point, she says, do you agree that your consent is not needed to purchase goods and services?
Whoa.
And I paused for a second. I was like, can you say that again? And she says exactly the same thing. Yeah. She says, do you agree that your consent is not needed to purchase goods and services? And I was like, and the dude standing next to me goes, that's just for, the free estimate thing. And I was just like, okay. I didn't really say yes or no. But I know that they record those things, you know? So if you ever took them to court, they're like, oh, he said, Yeah. Anyway. And she goes, well, let's go ahead and schedule a time for tomorrow for us to come inside the house and take our measurements and all this, that, and the other.
It sounds like some Home Alone shit.
And I just, I'm standing there, and I'm like, I just have this moment of clarity where I'm like, I don't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't want this anymore. And there's like this really long pause, and the guy standing next to me goes, and the lady goes, okay, all right. She's like, it totally threw him off. And I just
totally flabbergasted.
Yeah, I just handed the guy his phone back, and I was like, I'm gonna go get my groceries now. And that's when I walked back up to my truck. I started getting all my groceries out, and I've got them, I've got them all in my arms, whatever. I'm walking back towards the house, and the dude walks back up, and he was just like, hey man, what happened? Like, he's like, that's the first time anybody's ever just backed out, like in the middle of scheduling like that. I was like, yeah, I just don't want this.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, it was nothing you did. It kind of was.
Yeah.
I was like, but I told him, I was like, there's nothing you did. You were great. You're friendly. I was like, I simply don't want this. And he was just like, okay, well, have a good day, sir. And I was just like, I came aside and I told Mary about everything. I was like, I feel so powerful. Like they thought they had me. And like right at the finish line, I just crab walked the other direction. And I was just like, I'm out. I'm not a part of this.
Yeah, I'm not running this race
I'm not
anymore.
running this fucking race anymore. Goodbye. And it was so funny how just fucking taken aback they were. And I was like, that tells me that people don't ever do that.
Yeah.
They do what I was doing, and they just let them just come in and
muscle their way in.
Yeah, just muscle their way into your life. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You can totally just say no.
No.
Don't be afraid to say no.
See, I'm much more of a cunt than you are.
You are. You definitely. You wouldn't have. They wouldn't have gotten that far with you.
No. I'm like, fuck off.
Get the fuck off my driveway.
It's like I have a toddler and a piece of shit dog that won't mind. Like I'm in a bad mood all the time. Leave me alone.
I'm already looking. You know, I've already been thinking about coming home to that. Like I'm here to find you trying to sell me something. But yeah, for anybody listening, you don't have to deal with solicitors. String them along if you want to, but at the end of the day, just tell them fucking no.
That's what I love about our Nest doorbell. It's like they'll ring the doorbell. Like I've literally had, because of where the office is at, where I'm at, like you can see into the office like from the stairs.
Yeah.
And somebody will come up and ring the doorbell. And I'll just sit there and like be on the computer like working, and like they're like looking at me like ringing the doorbell, and I won't acknowledge them.
Oh my gosh!
It's like, yes, I hear you, and no, go away.
You should just like turn and wave at them. Hey, you can leave now. I'm not coming out.
Flip
there.
them off.
Yeah. You're in your house. What are they going to do? But you tried to muscle your way into Canada.
About that, I was not so powerful. So, the job that I work sends me to Canada sometimes. Well, actually, a lot of times.
Yeah, pretty often.
Yeah, pretty often here recently. So I had a job in, was it Winnipeg, like Manitoba or something like that, which is like right above North Dakota. So I flew into Fargo because it's harder to, you have to like time your PCR test that you get for COVID going into Canada, and your flight has to land prior to the 72-hour window being open. Okay. So, like, I got the test on Wednesday, and I had to be there Friday. So I said, I'll just fly into Fargo, and then if my test doesn't come back, then I don't have to worry about it. I can just get a hotel room. I can drive across the border. It's not a big deal. There was another guy that works at the company I work for that he also went. He got his test back earlier than I got mine back. So he drove across. So the next day, I wake up, I check my email, I said, oh, great, I got my test back. I went down, I was staying at like a stay bridge or something like that in Fargo. So I went and printed off my test. I brought it, like all the paperwork that was given to me by the company that I work for. It's like all this legal documentation that allows me to get in the country. I don't have to quarantine because I'm considered an essential employee, all that,
T's
blah,
are
blah, blah,
crossed,
blah. Yeah.
I's are dotted, everything.
So I pull up to the border crossing there in Canada, and I hand the guy my passport, and I said, I also have my COVID vaccination because I had just gotten done with the COVID vaccination, second shot. I said, do you need that as well? He's like, we're not accepting that right now. But he kept my passport, and he said, drive around, park under the thing. And then he was like, somebody will talk to you.
Yeah.
I thought he meant sit in the car. Somebody will come out and get you.
He mean you need to go inside somewhere?
Yeah. So there was like an inside portion. So I'm like sitting in the car, like waiting. And then I had bought a book, and I was like reading the book in the car. And the Border Patrol agent comes out, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I thought the guy said that somebody's going to come out and get me. He's like, no, come inside. So I came inside, and the guy like immediately has like a fucking attitude with me.
Yeah.
Officer Hudson, you're a fucking prick if you hear this.
Like, he came at you sideways right away?
Right away. So.
Oh, because he had to get up and go outside?
Yeah, I guess so.
Poor guy.
So I'm in there, and he goes, if you don't show up, he said, will the customer be able to run their product?
Because you essentially go to make sure that everything's running.
Yeah, essentially it's considered like an after sales support visit. Like everything had already been set up and everything like that, but there's some configuration items that have to take place on my part in order for it to get running. So I went in, and on the piece of paper that was from the customer that was like, Wesley and this other guy are going to be here. So he's like, well, where's the other guy? It's like, well, he's already at the plant. And then he was like, if you don't show up, will they be able to run? I was like, well, that's a hard question to answer. I was like, they'll be able to run at a very reduced capacity.
Yeah.
And then so he says, that's not the fucking question I asked you. And I was like, okay.
That's not the fucking question I asked you.
And so I was like, I mean, I guess. And then so the dude, like, he like makes me stand up and like sends me back to this chair, like in the back portion of this room, like 5 or 6 times. And finally I'm like, I'm not fucking getting in. Like, why am I like...
Wait, he was making you get up and like do laps?
No, he was like, get up, come here. And then he would like make me answer a question. He's like, go sit back down. And eventually I was like, why are we playing this game?
Yeah.
Like, why? Just let me leave. Like, you're not going to let me across. Like, I know what the result of this is going to be.
Yeah, this isn't ending nicely.
This isn't going to end with me getting into Canada. That's like, all you're doing is you're pissing yourself off.
Yeah.
And
you're just having like a power trip.
Yeah, and you're just like making me wait here. Like, so it doesn't mean anything. It's like, I don't give a fuck either way. So, so he's like, I'm not going to let you in. He like gives me a whole spiel or whatever about how like our company needs to like blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, last time I checked, I'm not the CEO. It's like, maybe you should direct all concerns. And so, like, I'm driving back across, and he, like, gives me this piece of paper. He's like, anytime you could try to come into Canada, the Border Patrol agent is going to see this, or the Customs agent is going to see this, and they're going to see it's on your record and all this stuff. I was like, dude, I don't fucking care.
He's just whipping his dick out at this point.
I don't give a fuck. And so, like, I go back across, because there's, like, I guess there's, like, a zone, like, I turned around, like, I'm in Canada, technically. So I turn around and go back, and I have to go back through, like, U.S. Customs. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be a huge ordeal. And so, like, I go back across, and there's, like, a guy, he, like, opens up the window, and I, like, give him the piece of paper, like, do you need, like, my passport or anything? He's like, no, go on.
Like, it'd been funny if he'd have been like, he said, what? And then, like, made you take him back to that guy.
So I was like, Michael Moore, you fat piece of shit. I was like, they're not nicer than we are. They're the same cunts we are.
Yeah, they're just further north.
Like, you poutine eating pieces of shit.
I wonder why he was being such a dick about it. Because I mean, it doesn't seem like, I mean, you're just like a normal, white guy, but hey, I mean, that could mean anything, right? Or that could mean anything.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that I've been to Canada so many times within the past year that they thought it was like abnormal because I had all these like visa stamps in my passport.
Nobody comes to Canada this much.
Like, he must be running drugs inside of these chickens.
Yeah. Or just the chickens.
I got a bunch of chicken meal, like a bunch of drug meals that are chickens.
That's so funny. I've never had well, I take that back. When me and Mary went to, I was going to say I've never had like a run-in with authority like that before. No. The closest thing I had was when me and Mary were in Nashville this past weekend. We got those birds, the electric scooters. You pay or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we're just riding them around, and this dude came out. We were riding past like some train station or something. I think that's what it was. And this security guard came out and he was like, hey, you can't ride these there. These are for paying customers. Like, he was really upset with us. But like Mary said she just doesn't like to get in trouble. So she was like, okay, sir, I'm very sorry. I'm so sorry. We'll get off. And he was like, he just wasn't expecting that reaction, because he's right here next to Broadway where all these drunk rednecks are. So he's probably expecting us to be like, fuck you. But he was just like, oh, well, have a nice day. Just be safe. And so, I mean, he luckily for him and for us, Mary, didn't match his energy.
No.
Like,
oh, yeah, that guy was getting pissed because, like, I wasn't matching his energy.
That's what I told you when you called me. I was like, he was getting madder because you weren't coming at him the way he was coming at you. You were just like, okay, dude.
It was like, I don't give a fuck. I could really give a fuck if I get in or not. Like, it's like, yeah, I'd like to get in because my company paid for this, but I mean, if you're going to be a fucking prick about it, then it is what it is. I'll go home. Like you're really, I'm so hurt.
Oh no, I don't get to go into your country. I don't know what made me think about this, but have you ever heard of Julio Novelo? Do you know who that is?
No.
Julio Novelo was an Ecuadorian living in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, Julio was walking down the street in downtown Manhattan where he happened upon an armored truck that had the back doors open.
It sounds like an allegory.
This is a real story. I just happened to see a video about it on YouTube.
Some type of biblical teaching.
Yeah. I just so happened to see a video about it on YouTube when we were coming home from Lake Martin. But Julio happens upon this armored truck. There's no guards in sight. In the back of the armored truck are these 8 5-gallon buckets. And he decides, I will take one of these. And he grabs it. And it's 80 pounds worth of gold. Yeah. And he walks down the street with 80 pounds of gold. He didn't know that's what he grabbed.
And some big-ass balls.
Yeah.
I don't know how he picked those up with those big fucking balls.
The armored truck was making a deposit at the Federal Reserve. And there was 2 guys with the truck. There was 2 dudes with the truck, and one guy goes to go inside the building. The other guy goes and sits in the truck and plays on his fucking phone.
Oh, no.
Julio just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Yeah. And he grabs the bucket. It takes him an hour to get all the way to his apartment. Yeah. Because he's hefting this 80-pound bucket.
Yeah, he's probably
gold.
stopping.
He didn't know that's what was in there until he got home.
It's it's 80 pounds. You have to what the fuck is in here?
Yeah. So he gets home and then he figures out what was in it. And then it was $1.6 million worth of gold at the time. He sold it all on the black market for 1.2, and then he just had the cash. Yeah. And him and his girlfriend were trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to play this? Well, then they started looking for him, right, because they had him on camera and everything like that. And he decides that the best place to hide is right under their noses. He doesn't leave Manhattan. Julio stays in Manhattan. He pretends like he's there on vacation. He goes to the wax museum. He goes sees all the sights and everything. And then he returns to Ecuador as if he was on a trip.
Really?
Yes. So he leaves the cash with his girlfriend in Manhattan. Mistake number 1. And he goes on a cross-country road trip. He can't go to the airport.
No.
So he drives from Manhattan, New York, down to Florida, over to Texas, and then all the way through Mexico.
Yeah.
And then finally to Ecuador, which is on the northwest side of South America, I believe. Yeah. And while they were on that trip, him and the guy that was driving him actually got stopped. But it was Thanksgiving Day, and the officer was feeling generous and said, "You guys go ahead and enjoy Thanksgiving with your family." He didn't know that one of the FBI's most wanted was in the vehicle. He probably never does that.
Imagine being the next guy that he stops. He's like, "Get the fuck out of the car! Get the fuck out of the car!" He just starts beating the fuck out of him. Yeah. It's like some dude with his kids in the car.
Yeah. Hey, officer, how's it? Whoa! He just comes out way too hot. That's probably what was going on.
Opens the window. He hits him in the head with a nightclub.
That's probably what happened with old Canada man. He probably let a dangerous Al Qaeda guy into Canada one time. He's feeling generous. But Julio got to Ecuador, and they ended up figuring out who he was, his name, and everything like that. And Ecuador told the United States, "No, we're not sending him back to you.
No,
we'll take care of it here." He got 1 year in jail. Now I don't know what Ecuadorian prison is like.
I wouldn't imagine it's very nice.
Probably not, but I know that American prison's not that great either.
No.
I don't know that firsthand.
Well, what he would have gotten in American prison. So
he does his little stint in jail there, and he gets out, and then he writes to his girlfriend to try and, because they still haven't found the money, and he's not telling them anything.
No.
And they technically can't make him because Ecuador is already taking care of the legal side of things. And she doesn't ever get back to him. So he figures, oh shit, she's run off with the money.
No.
And to this day, it has never been found, and neither has she.
Really?
And now Julio is back in Ecuador as a poor felon. The rise and fall of Julio Novelo. It was was like a 5-minute long video, and I was watching this thing. I was glued to it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
That's like some Grand Theft Auto shit.
Yeah, I was like, I've always wanted to pull off a heist. Now, granted, all he did was walk up to a truck and take it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, he had like a team, and then they were like playing like the music. And
he did like all the side quests so that he wouldn't have to.
he was too over. He was leveled up too high. Yeah, but that shit fucking blew me away, and I was just like, think about all the people, like all the mistakes that were made, like just for him to get as far as he did. Yeah. He just kind of bumbled through the whole thing. Like the fucking guards, the dude like playing Flappy Bird in the fucking cab, and then the policeman that just let him go. And I just like, I don't know, kind of admired it.
You imagine being the other guy that comes out, you're like, dude.
Wasn't there like 6 buckets? Oh shit.
Yeah, it's like, why'd you leave the fucking doors open? Like, what are you doing?
Well, here's the thing. If you see like the CCTV footage, there's all kinds of people walking up and down.
Yeah.
It just took one man, that one Julio, to just say, hey.
He's like, you know what?
This is mine now.
Today's my day. Today's my day in the sun.
I wonder what his reaction was when he finally got home and like pried the lid off that bucket and saw all that gold in there. Because like the authorities said it was gold flake, and like in his interview with like 2020, he said it wasn't gold flake, it was gold bars.
Yeah.
He's like, they're like this.
Yeah, it's like, how the fuck am I going to get rid of this?
Yeah, he like went to Home Depot and bought a jigsaw and cut it all up in his apartment.
That's so crazy.
I've always wanted to do something like that and get away with it.
Yeah, not do it and then get caught.
Yeah, because I love all those heist movies like Ocean's 11 and like like the heisty parts of Mission Impossible and everything. Yeah. I don't want to grab onto the side of a plane as it's taking off. Tom Cruise actually did that?
Yeah, he like does all of his own stunts. I saw one, it was like some like Watch Mojo thing or something. Some, how they do like a top 10 list or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like top 10 like films where you see actors like actually get hurt in the movie.
Yeah.
And then the last Mission Impossible, like where he jumps between these two buildings.
Yeah.
Like he landed, but his foot hit the side of the building like this. And so his foot's like this, but his leg is pointed straight up. So he broke the fuck out of his ankle.
Wait, like his foot was like pointed up parallel to his leg?
So like if my foot hit the wall like this, my leg is not like this. My leg's going straight up and down. So he just like broke the fuck out of it.
Yikes.
Yeah. And you can see like in the video, he's like, he like gets up and like hobbles away.
Oh my God. Ugh.
I was like, fuck that.
God, that's like that video I sent you from Reddit the other day where the dude jumped off the roof.
Oh yeah.
And be like, I've never seen anybody fold up like that before. Like he landed and he jumped off a roof and he landed like flat-footed, but his body bent over at the waist, and like his legs stayed like planted. Like I would have thought he would have just crumbled.
Yeah.
But they were completely rigid, and his like top half of his body kept going, and he folded over and he's like looking between his own ankles. I ended up I was reading further, or whatever,
like
and he
just hip sockets.
Yeah,
exploding.
he like tore both his ACLs, broke all his ribs, and like bruised a vertebrae and everything like that. But man, it didn't look real. I'll try to post the link on the Facebook page if I can find it again. But my God, it just looked so fucking bad. What's that girl that was the gymnast? I don't remember her name. I think she was at Auburn actually, and she had that bad landing.
Oh, yeah. What was her name?
Was it Gabby something?
No. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, because it was big. Everybody was talking about it.
Because she, like, finished the routine, right? And wasn't that, like, the whole deal about it?
She couldn't, not if that. She couldn't have finished it.
This might be another girl I'm thinking of then.
The one I'm thinking of, like, she bird-legged real bad.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah, like, it was the event where they run from one end, and they do, like, a couple cartwheels and flips and stuff, and they land it. She was like coming out of her front flip or whatever, and like just kind of landed bad, and like her she's just bird legged. Like her knee went from being concave to convex. Like those people that are doing the leg presses. That's the sound she made.
Like, oh my God, she turned into a bird.
Everybody's like, yeah, wow. It was like those people that
like, I'm going to do a gator into a bird leg.
I'll fly away. I'm going to go fly up and land on the rafters. And then people say, oh, look, a bird got in. It's like those people that do the leg presses. You know what I mean? Where they lock their knees up at the end of it. I remember when I was working out at University of West Georgia, I saw people doing that all the time.
Locking their knees?
Locking their knees. And I'm just
like the worst thing you can do.
And it's not like, little skinny people doing it. These like people that are putting like 800 pounds on this machine. Yeah. And I'm like, the moment like your knee goes past the point of no return, your fucking legs are done.
Yeah, and like the hard thing about that is that like your legs, like for some reason, like when you're doing leg presses like that, like your legs want to go into that position.
Yeah, very naturally they want to do that.
It's very natural for it like to go in that position so it can hold it. That way it can brace that weight.
Yeah.
But the thing
can't let it do that.
The thing is that you're relying on the very simple physics of your body.
Yeah,
to
you're
be
not
able
relying
to hold
on
an enormous amount of weight that it's not used to holding.
Yeah, you're not holding it up with your muscles anymore. You're holding it up with your ligaments, which barely work as it is. Oh, God Almighty! There was
like, oh look, there goes Ostrich Oscar.
Ostrich Oscar. There was the Chinese guy at the Beijing Olympics who was doing the deadlift. Remember that?
Oh, he was doing the snatch, and then it got away from him, and he like his rotator cuff went to the side. I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
he's like he had it up above his head.
Yeah.
I think he was still squatting at that point or whatever, and then like you just see his arms just like crumble into dust underneath him. It's like, you might be strong, your muscles might be strong, but your bones and your ligaments are only going to give you so much.
Like, your bones and your ligaments, the thing that gets people hurt a lot of times when they take steroids like that is that your bones and your ligaments have to catch up to what your muscles are doing. So if they're not used to being under that amount of stress and under that amount of weight, they're going to give way. It's like people who spend a lot of time and they don't use steroids and stuff. Well, people that use steroids can still get away with it. But you see those injuries a lot more with people who aren't natural athletes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they've taken some type of enhancement.
They kind of only know how to get big.
Yeah. Well, it's like their muscles are the muscles can do it. That's not the muscles aren't the problem.
Yeah,
the problem is
there's other factors at play here.
The problem is the structure of the bones and the ligaments. They go, we're not used to this kind of weight. And it goes, yeah, we're done here. Yeah.
Oh, man. The worst is when you see something like that happen one time, you're kind of on the edge about it from then on.
Oh, yeah.
So whenever I watch the Olympics, and I'm watching,
here it comes.
Yeah, every single time, every event, every person, I'm like, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the bad one. Yeah. Their leg or their arm or, so their spine's going to shoot out of their ass. Something terrible's going to happen here. There's
a video somewhere. I don't know where it's at, but the javelin throw. So this guy throws the javelin, and the field official is not looking.
Oh, no.
And it goes... right
in his shoulder?
Into his shoulder, into the trapezius,
ooh,
right behind the clavicle.
Ooh,
and he goes and pulls it out.
He pulled it out. We were talking about that specifically the other day. When you get impaled by something, the knee-jerk reaction is to take it out. Yeah. A lot of times that's not what you're supposed to do. Why were we talking about that? Oh, because Dad got stung by the stingray this past weekend.
Yeah.
He had stung on his toe.
Was it a stingray or was it jellyfish?
Stingray.
It was a stingray?
I think it whipped him or something.
Oh, okay.
But, that's how Steve Irwin died. Yep. And they said that if he didn't pull the barb out, he probably would have lived.
Yeah.
But, it's all speculation at this point. But yeah,
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, the Olympics people getting hurt, it's always so bad with them because these are people who their whole lives have pushed the limit, right? They're Olympians. They're the athletes
the
of
peak
the
of
athletes.
humanity as far as athletics is concerned.
The cream of the crop, you know, as Macho Man would say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Which, by the way, quick aside, can we all acknowledge that he was probably the best promo guy in WWE and WCW history?
You're talking about Macho Man?
Macho Man.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
He was just a character.
Yeah.
And
he was probably high on fucking coke all the time.
yeah. And he was always that character.
Yeah.
He was always Macho Man.
Yeah.
Like, anytime he was on camera, anytime you saw him ever, he was Macho Man.
He played the character. That's who he was.
Was he the one that choked out the talk show host? Or was that Hulk Hogan?
I don't know.
Because there was somebody...
I do know for a fact that it was like Halloween Havoc 1997 that there was a fan with a Sting mask that jumped into a cage match.
Uh-oh.
And Macho Man beat the fuck out of his ass. It was like actually punching this dude.
Wait, was he like mad at him for jumping into the cage, or was like...
Yeah, the fan got in there. He's like, "You want to fucking go?" So Macho Man beat the fuck out of that guy.
Wow. However, the fan probably went home that night and was like, "I had the best night.
The best time."
Macho Man Randy Savage beat the fucking brakes off of me in front of everyone." No, it was Hulk Hogan. It was Hulk Hogan. He was doing he put somebody, Johnny Carson, I want to say, in a sleeper hold.
Yeah.
And he passed out and he drops him and the dude like falls to the
Just
floor.
ragdolls to the
Yeah, he
floor.
ragdolls to the floor. And Mr. T's sitting there too. He's like, you know, on the show, and Mr. T's like, he's sleeping. And then the guy like jumped up and like played it off or whatever. But
Have you ever been put to sleep before?
I have not.
It is a fucking crazy feeling. It's just lights out. Like you don't see it coming.
Really?
Yep.
I passed out one time when Mary scared me. That's a true story. But I've never been like,
you know, with you, I've almost passed out a couple times. So most of the time it's like I've been over for too long where I'm like in a seated position and I like jump out real quick.
Yeah.
And like get tunnel vision, everything gets real cold.
I know you passed out that time we played the door game.
Yeah. And then I passed out one time when Jason Pollard had me in a full Nelson.
Yeah.
And I was like, he like had me like that, and I was like, oh, okay, well I'll just let my body go limp and I'll just slide through.
How'd that work?
It didn't work. And I passed out. Like as soon as I did it, it was like,
You think it's because like you let all the blood go? And
yeah, I just let all the blood go and just like went limp. And then he's like still hold me and it just like cut everything off. Because it was him and Allison were there, and Allison like they were like standing over me, and Jason like slapped me in the face, and then they were like, "You started snoring." And like the time that you did it, like I kind of felt it coming, but then it was just lights out. And it's such a weird feeling. Like you wake up like, what the heck? What the fuck happened?
Like a time skip.
Yeah, like a time skip.
Yeah. There was that time that I fell out of the chair at Brandon Justin's house in the garage, and I hit my head on the floor.
Oh yeah.
I think I knocked out for a little bit after that. And then Allison walked me home.
Yeah, concussions are fun.
But I wanted to talk about the so the Olympians.
Yeah.
Their injuries and their crashes and everything are always the worst, of course, because they're pushing it to the limit or whatever. The Winter X Games, there was that guy, the loser. I don't remember his name, but he came out of that turn going too fast, and he came up out of the track.
That was a bad one.
Yeah, he came up out of the track, and his body hit that fucking steel I-beam at going whatever speed they're going.
He was probably doing like 50 miles an hour when he hit it.
And it wrapped him up like a fucking pretzel. Yeah. Killed him instantly. I'm pretty sure it did. At least I hope it did.
Yeah.
And then you had Shaun White, who went up the half pipe and then came back down and landed on his face on the edge of the half pipe.
Mm. Yeah, and people don't realize, like, they're like, oh, it's just packed snow. It's like, you don't understand how packed.
Yeah, like concrete. It's like concrete.
That's concrete.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to go up and, like, jump on it. It's going to break.
Yeah. He didn't, like, crash into, like, a powdery pillow.
Yeah.
He smashed his face on the side of a brutalist architect structure is essentially what happened.
Like a piece of, like, ice.
Yeah.
Like, that's essentially what it is.
Now, that's not to say that, you know, some amateur skaters or whatever don't have some pretty bad spills, but, like, but when it happens in the Olympics, it's always just, like, the worst it could ever be.
Yeah, they're just pushing it as hard as they can. It's like, especially with the Olympics, too, right? Because, like, the Olympics only happen every 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, this might be your only shot.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So, like, you got to leave it all out there.
And a lot can happen in 4 years. It's like, yeah, you might be able to come back next time, but you're 4 years older.
Yeah.
And when you're an Olympian athlete, you age a lot faster than normal people do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because there's no downtime. You're constantly, training and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's no off season.
Yeah.
There's no off season.
You know that they all fuck each other?
In the Olympic Village?
The Olympic Village?
I don't doubt it.
I remember that story.
I've been around the track and field community. They're pretty promiscuous.
I remember when
promiscuous people.
When that story broke, I was like, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. They're all young adults in peak physical condition.
Yeah, exactly.
What else do you think they're going to do?
What else do you think could be happening?
They're going to be boning each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's like even the women have high testosterone. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
They're trying to get it in, too.
I think the worst...
and another thing is, too, is like, I'll let you go, but have you ever watched, like, the officials, like, for track and field? They're not young. They're old.
Yeah.
Like, they're old people.
Yeah.
It's like, wouldn't you want somebody who's a little bit more spry to try to get out of the way of an implement? Like a shot put.
Well, you were young.
Hammer.
You were young when you got hit with a shot put, so if it's an instance where you're not paying attention... Age doesn't really help you.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like if, say somebody's throwing a hammer 280-something feet.
Yeah.
That thing's coming in pretty hot.
Yeah.
And you've got like...
Force equals mass times acceleration.
You've got this dude that's like 80 years old.
Oh, it's going to wreck him.
Yeah. And like, if he doesn't get out of the way quick enough because his hips are bothering him that day, it happens to be a little bit chilly.
It'd be like the fucking Thanos snap. He just turns into dust and just... He might have a moment where he's like, ah! And he just turns into dust. Oh, man.
It was like, he was there, and then he was just gone.
That was crazy. Me and Aaron kind of talked about that one time. We were like, what if, like, no matter how you died, every single time, like, every person, like, the last 3 seconds were just unbridled terror. Like, regardless of how you died, like you're just like peacefully drifting off, and then you just. I don't know why, but that always cracked me up.
Well, it's probably a good thing because isn't it like when you're like old and you're dying, like your brain like essentially releases this chemical to kind of like ease you into the process?
I don't know. I would hope that it
I
does.
had read somewhere one time that that's the case.
There's a lot of chemical stuff that does happen. That's why, they attribute a lot of, like, people when they're dying will see loved ones.
Yeah.
And, they say that those chemicals, because everything in your brain's all mixing at this point. So
it's getting ready to shut down.
Yeah. So yeah, I would hope that it's pretty peaceful, and it's not just
yeah,
because
like a minute and a half, just like screaming.
Yeah, because all your loved ones would know that that's coming, right? Because that's how everyone dies. So they were all gathered around in your deathbed, just waiting for that horror movie moment. With your eyes bugging out of your head.
Like, there it is.
Yeah, at least then you would know for sure.
Yeah. Like, he's gone.
He's gone now.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but the worst injury that I've seen from people doing like a sport like that. Well, I don't want to say the worst, but what comes to mind is I was watching this guy that was doing mountain biking, like trail biking.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike me, he was using an actual BMX bike and not a street bike with no suspension.
There you go.
That's how I broke my arm the first time. I remember that because like we started at the top of that hill behind Brandon and Justin's house, and like Aaron and Justin went and they did it fine. I'm like, here I go, and it was just like that, just banging back and forth. It launched me off of it. I remember crashing so hard, and that hill was so long because I passed out, and then I came to and I was still crashing.
Yeah.
But anyway, this guy was doing the trail biking, and his back tire came out from under him. I think he hit like some loose dirt or something like that, and it launched him. And he crashes down into all these wood chips.
Yeah.
And he had a fucking stick went through his cheek and then out his mouth. Like pushed all his teeth out of the way. And he had a helmet on, so somehow I just happened to get that right,
wedged in there,
just right, and went in there. So that whenever I'm watching people doing that, I'm like, here it comes, some horrible hard things going to happen.
Speaking of injuries, I specifically remember like the first time that I had like, I wouldn't say a massive injury, but like I hurt myself enough to where I scared myself when it happened. I think I was like 5 maybe, because you were still little, and it's when we were still living in the log house.
Yeah.
And so Mom, I guess she was taking care of you, and she was just like told me, she's like, go outside and play.
Yeah, get the fuck away from me.
Get the fuck out of this house. And so I'm already like I don't want to bother her, so I'm like out in like the side yard, like next to like like there's like the porch in the front, and there's like the side where like the honeysuckle bushes and everything were on the left hand side of the house. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to do a cartwheel. And so I tried it a couple times, and I was like, I need to get my legs up over. Like, I need to essentially do like a handstand and then go over the other way. Because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I still can't do a cartwheel. So I like get all the way up, and like I'm in a handstand position, but then I freeze because it scares me because I'm 5. And so instead of like putting my feet back down, I fall over onto my back. And I knocked the wind out of myself. Ooh. And that had never happened to me before.
That's a scary thing.
So I'm like a child, like in the side yard. Nobody knows I'm out here. And I'm like... the whole time, I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. And nobody knows I'm out here. I was so scared. I was like, I'm too young to die.
It is fucking scary when you get the wind knocked out of you. When you lose that very basic function of being able to breathe. Yeah, you're like, this is it. I'm fucking dying now.
Because the whole time I was like,
yeah,
like you're like grabbing at your throat.
Yeah. The worst time I ever knocked the wind out of myself was we were at. I want to say it was the Carrollton football field. We were there for a track meet because our young lives were dominated by that shit. And I was dicking around on the stairs, and I was like trying to slide down the stairs, but I like grabbed it, like I was on my belly, right? And I was sliding down backwards. Well, I kind of shifted off to the side a little bit and swung around. Yeah. And, like, the corner of that concrete step got me, like, square in the back. Yeah. And I just I dropped, and I thought I was paralyzed. I couldn't breathe and I couldn't move. And I was staring directly at the sun. And I couldn't even do anything. I was just...
That's how I was.
I was frozen.
I was like looking up at the clouds. I was like,
yeah, I was fucking frozen in place. And like, I was like, I'm going to die right here.
At this stupid fucking track meet.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's scary as shit. Every time it's happened to me, I'm like, after that, I was like, I know what's going on. Like, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
But it's still like, there's some panic that sets in.
Like, what if it doesn't? Yeah. What if it doesn't come back?
Like, all the air just like lets out of your lungs, and they can't like get going again. Yeah. It takes a second.
God, it sucks. Speaking of injuries, Mikey reached out to me.
Oh, yeah?
Shout out to Mikey. We one of the other podcasts, we talked about Mikey destroying his fingers. And I feel like destroying is the correct word.
Yeah.
They were obliterated. And he did tell me what the name of that drug
Eviscerated.
was. Yeah. Yeah. What did he call it? Let me go back here. He said he didn't pass out. He was awake for the whole thing. He said there is an e-stop, but it doesn't stop immediately.
Oh, no.
Which would make that not an e-stop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, by my understanding.
Yeah. And e-stops, like, halt the whole process.
Yeah. And it was called Dilaudid. Was the name of the drug that they gave him.
I think I've heard that name somewhere before.
I've only ever heard it from him.
Yeah.
But
probably in like one of those doctor shows that Allison watches. They probably said it on there or something.
That's another thing I can't watch. Like all those fucking... There's so many stories of like 1,000 Ways to Die that have like fucked with my head. Like that's why it takes me so long to poop, because I don't push.
Yeah.
I just kind of sit there and wait for it to be over.
See, I have the same. It's not so much like pooping as it is like peeing.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember where I heard this, and Mom and Dad were talking about you the other day about how you don't push when you poop, and I was like, well, I don't push when I pee, and they're like, what?
How does that even work?
Yeah. And at some point I had heard, I don't know if it was like in like second grade or something, that like if you push when you pee, that it can enlarge your prostate. So I have never pushed when I pee. I was like, I'm not going down that road.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
You just like kept that information with you always. I just remembered there was one episode where a dude pushed too hard and he pooped his guts out, like literally. Now a lot of that was probably exaggerated for TV. Yeah. But I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to poop my guts out in the toilet. So I just sit there and I wait for it to naturally happen. It takes me 45 minutes. That's fine. I'd rather my legs fall asleep than fucking die on the toilet.
Yeah. That's not how I want my loved ones to find me in my final resting place. Like
it's the same reason, that show is the same reason why fake breast implants freak me the hell out. Because that one woman, now granted she went to Mexico to have it done.
Yeah, well.
And it cost her like $150. Well, she got on the airplane to go back, and like something about the change in pressure caused her fucking tits to explode, and it killed her. Yeah, so that like, there's so many little things like that where it's like, well, intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
Like there was one episode where people were, the house next door to them was doing some like renovating, and their pool was open. So they set up a slip and slide to slide into the pool. Well, they didn't know that they set the slip and slide down over a carpenter's nail, and when they went over it, it gutted them, and then they went into the pool. So now every time I see a slip and slide, I'm like, what if there's a nail? Yeah. you can never be too sure.
You're just like living your life in fear all the time.
Just all these little things.
I remember when I was younger, I don't remember how I ended up like having this thought or whatever, but I remember like as a kid, like I would think things and I would always be like, I'm the only person that thinks this because I'm just a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
So like I can't share it with anybody because A, it's like I don't want other people to know that I'm a fucking weirdo.
Right. In the event that nobody else thinks this way.
And B, I don't want anybody else to have to go through what I'm going through.
You're just like making it worse on yourself.
So I remember like as a kid, somehow or another, like I was like, somebody was talking about how when you breathe, you don't think about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like thinking about breathing. And I was like, what if I just stop and I can't make myself breathe again? It terrified me to go to sleep because I didn't trust my body to regulate.
What if I don't remember?
So like the more you think about it, the more like 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe. And there was always like shit like that I was like doing. I was like, I can't let anybody else know.
Yeah. I very specifically remember getting boners at a young age. What I would say is a young age, because I don't know how old you're supposed to be when you start getting boners.
Yeah, like nobody really talks about that.
No, because nobody talks about it. That's the problem. Because one day in kindergarten, we had some like guest speaker or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know I very clearly remember asking this. Nobody said anything to me about it. I don't even remember what the reactions were. But they said, do you have any questions? And I guarantee you they meant about whatever the hell it was they were talking about that I did not pay attention to. And I said, yeah, I got a question. Yeah, how come when I see a girl I like, my pee-pee gets hard? I didn't get an answer.
Imagine being the person who's a guest speaker. You'd be like, what?
I don't remember who was there or what they were talking about, but I very clearly remember asking that question, and just like they had to have gone home and been like, guess what this fucking kid asked me?
Probably like his poor parents.
And I feel like I've asked that. I feel like I asked that a bunch of times as a kid. Never got an answer about it. I was like, I guess I'm just fucking weird. You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. And like, you can't talk about it with other kids because other kids are just gonna make fun of you for stuff.
Exactly.
Like, kids are fucking vicious.
Yeah, they'll latch on to anything.
Like, oh, there comes the Gary Hard people.
But now that I know that if I have a son,
yeah,
that he'll probably experience the same thing. I'll have an answer for him.
Yeah.
I won't let him ask his kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
I really want to find, because Miss Anderson, who used to live across the street from us, she was our kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
I really want to reach out to her and ask, do you remember me asking a really weird question to a guest speaker? But I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to ask about that particular question. So I might just need to let it die. But now the curiosity is, what was everybody's reaction to it? Like, did they get a notification from the school like, Gary has some questions about his body that you need to address with him?
Oh, God.
Speaking of questions,
we got a question?
we've got two
Awesome.
on one of our Facebook posts. The first one is from Jordan Lee Huffer, who asks, best sea story. Now, I wasn't in the Navy. You were.
Yeah,
so
I guess
sure
I need to
got
explain
one.
what a sea story is. So,
So that's like not a layman term.
Yeah, so a sea story is essentially just like something that happened to you while you were in the military. Most of the time, like it's while you were underway, like on the like out on the sea or like in port, right?
Yeah.
So the best sea story. Okay, so we went on deployment in 2013, and our first port visit was in Marseille, France.
Yeah.
Was it the MWR, which is like Welfare, Morale, and Recreation or something like that? I can't remember what the acronym is for it.
Is that to make sure you guys aren't losing your fucking minds?
No, they like put on like things that you can go do. So they'll like get in contact with like things in the area, and they'll be like, you give us like $40 and you get to go on like a tour of like something that would originally cost you like $150.
Oh,
like they work out like a deal. Like, so they had one where it was, I think it was like $70 and you got to go on a wine tour. So
a wine tour in France.
Yep. So we ended up going to this, I think we stopped somewhere first. It was like this small like little town or something like that. And like we had lunch and it was like a thing. And they were like, okay, everybody back on the bus. We're going to go take you to the winery.
Yeah.
And so we like drove up into like the hills of like France, like somewhere in like this rural countryside in France.
Yeah.
And so we get there and it's like a very like, it's a winery and it's very, I don't say like old school. That's not the right word.
Is it like very posh?
Rustic, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Like it's what you'd think like a winery would be in France.
In like the French countryside.
Yeah, in the French countryside,
Yeah.
right? So like like the place where it's at is very like, it's got the like the look of like a house that would be out there and all that stuff, and they have like the grapevines out like in the field and all this shit. And so we go in and they're like explaining to us like how to do the wine tour and all this stuff. And so they're like, oh, you swirl it around, you like smell it, and then you drink it. And then they're like, there's like a spittoon essentially. They want you to spit the wine in. I'm like, I ain't fucking spitting the wine out.
Yeah.
I'll drink this shit.
I paid $70.
Yeah. So like, we get done with it or whatever. And there's like 15 bottles of wine like sitting on this table that they just left there. And so everybody's like looking around, and I just walk up and like grab the opener. I just start popping bottles and pouring fucking wine for everybody. And we're all getting fucking hammered.
Well, there was nobody like a chaperone or anybody with you?
No. Well, even the chaperones were like people like from the ship. It's like, and we're all a bunch of fucking drunks anyway.
No, I mean like people from the winery. Like there's not like a guide or.
They had went over to try to sell wine. I'm like, there's free wine right here. You left it on the table. So we're all drinking this wine, and then like I'm pretty drunk at this point, and so I'm like, I like walk up and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy a bottle of this white Zinfandel that I like.
Yeah.
And so I buy it. It's like a huge bottle, and like people are like coming up to me, and I'm just like pouring like in these little like glasses or whatever, and we're all drinking this wine, and other people like bought bottles, and we're all drinking this fucking wine, waiting for the time to leave.
Yeah.
And so I step outside. I'm fucking hammered. Like I'm almost blackout drunk.
Yeah.
And so
you've been on your feet. So
yeah,
you're
I've been on my
actually
feet.
drunk.
Yeah.
When you sit down and you drink and then you stand up.
Yeah. And so I'm like acting like a jackass, and I take the bottle and I throw it in the vineyard. Like some type of fucking degenerate.
Fucking pig American.
Yeah. And I get on the bus, and I still have like the little cup in my hand.
Yeah.
And so we get to riding back, and the bus that we're on.
So how many bottles have you drank at this point?
Like, like the big bottle, like the barefoot.
Yeah.
Like probably 2.5.
Oh my fucking God.
Like I've had a lot to drink. I've had a lot to drink and like nothing to eat,
Yeah.
so it's all wine.
Yeah. And
so we get back on the bus. We get back on the bus to go back to the boat, and it's only like 3:00 in the afternoon, and I'm gone. And so like I like intermittently I'm like passing out like while we're going back, and there's no AC on this bus. There's no AC anywhere in France. It's fucking hot because it's August.
Fuck that.
And so we're getting closer, and as we're getting closer to the pier to go back to the boat, I start feeling bad. Mm-mm. And so I
had a little bubble gut.
Yeah, and so like I had also bought this really nice bottle of like olive oil for Allison that I was going to bring back. I was like, it'll keep. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I had bought it, and it was sitting in a bag, and I had like a plastic bag or whatever. And so, but I had this little cup in my hand. And so we pull up, and we immediately, like, when we stop, I'm like, here it comes.
Oh, no.
And so instead of, like, grabbing the bag and puking it to the bag,
so I have this, that little ass cup?
I have this little cup, and I go, immediately, like, it goes, it goes in the cup and fills up the cup, and it's going everywhere.
I imagine, like, one of those little, like, paper cups they put pills in for, like, people in like the mental ward.
Like those little like Dixie cups.
Yeah.
Like you put like punch in.
Yeah.
It's like that. It wasn't very big at all.
Not even like a solo cup.
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck I was thinking. So like I get off, I'm covered in puke.
Oh.
Like everywhere. I leave the olive oil, and so we're going back to the ship. And like the guys that are with me,
you just left the olive oil gift on the bus.
I forgot totally about it. I just got off, and so we're headed back. And the guys that are with me, they're like, look, you have to act somewhat sober to get back on the ship. And so like I'm concentrating as hard as I can.
Yeah.
And like I sign back into the ship like, hey, I'm back on the ship. And then it's fucking curtains. I don't remember fucking anything.
Like as soon as you got on the boat?
I thought like blackout drunk was bullshit. But like I woke up the next morning, like in my rack, like where I was sleeping or whatever. And I was like, how the fuck did I get...
So
number one,
you hit the boat and went on autopilot.
I was like, number one, what time is it?
Yeah.
And so I look, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. I was like, whoa. I was like, I almost slept for 24 hours. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And so like I walk up, and the guy I was doing food service attendant work at the time. Mm-hmm. So it's like I work like in the galley, like I make sure the food gets ready. I was like, I missed all of it.
Yeah.
And so I walk up, and the guy that was working with me in the wardroom, which is like where all the officers were at, I was like, number one, what happened because you were with me yesterday? Yeah. And he was like, he told me the story like about what happened after I got on the ship. And then I was like, I was like, why didn't you come wake me up? He's like, I tried 5 different times. He's like, and I couldn't wake you up.
Your body was in repair mode.
So that's probably the best sea story that I have.
You didn't get in trouble?
No, I didn't.
Wow. That's
I got
impressive.
no trouble. You think that they would be like, hey, we can't let you back off the boat like that again.
That's funny.
And we also, when we were coming back through in Toulon, there was another wine tour. I was like, I'm going to go on this one, but I'm not going to act like a jackass this time. And so we got to drinking, and like I knew when to cut it off. Yeah. Like I had drank like a bottle or whatever, which is still like a lot.
Yeah.
And so
but compared to
like 2.5 bottles,
I
was like, okay, the limit is like a bottle, like maybe a little bit more. And so like as we were coming back, we're sitting on the bus, and I didn't realize I hadn't gone to the bathroom, and I had to pee.
Yeah.
And like I had to pee for like 30 minutes. Like, you ever been like drunk pee?
Yeah.
Like where you gotta go?
Yeah.
And so like I'm like I'm in pain and agony.
Like you're feeling it in your kidneys.
Like I'm feeling it in my kidneys. Like everything aches and it hurts. And then like as soon as we pull up, like everybody got off the bus, I'm just like sitting there like, oh God. Like there's like no way on the bus, and I just like got my legs squeezed as tight as I can. Yeah. I'm like, I was like, I can't piss myself. I was like, I can't go and have another incident on a fucking wine tour. They're gonna be like, the first time you puked on yourself, and the second time you pissed yourself, we can't take you fucking anywhere.
Yeah, you obviously can't be trusted.
But those are my 2C stories.
Our dad, who was also in the Navy, shout out to Dad.
Shout out.
He got kicked out of France.
Yes, the whole ship did.
The whole ship did. They were. I don't remember exactly what had happened, but I know that like, was it the captain was like at dinner with the mayor of the city they were in or something like that?
Yeah, so usually what happens is like if you have like a ship that goes into port, like there's especially like with the CO, like the captain of the ship and like the executive officer and stuff like that. Like they kind of go and do like ambassadorship. Like they'll go and like have dinner with the mayor or like a representative, or they'll go and eat dinner with like somebody from like the embassy.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very to do. You know what I mean? So
very very pomp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the story that Dad told me was that the captain was having dinner with the mayor or somebody, and a bunch of them were out at a bar. And I guess they got into a fight with like all these French guys, and were just like beating the fuck out of everybody.
Fucking bar fight.
And the mayor got a call, and the captain came back, and he was like, "The fuck happened? They said we can't come back." So the mayor's like, "Get your boat the fuck out of here!"
He got kicked out of fucking France.
The whole ship. They had to wait for everybody to get back to the ship before they could leave.
That's funny.
So they were like sending people out to like go get people.
Yeah.
And be like, we gotta go.
Yeah, France kicked us out.
Yeah.
They said we can't come back anymore. The story of how you decided to join the Navy has always been one of my favorites.
Me and Alice were talking about that the other night.
Because you could so you tell it. You tell it right quick.
Okay. So
I have a C story too.
So I guess I should really start. So I had the track and field scholarship to Auburn. I didn't do as great as I thought I was going to in my freshman year. They essentially told me like, hey, we're not going to increase your tuition.
Yeah.
We're going to keep you at 60%. So I was like, I don't want to take out any more student loans. I've already taken out like $20,000 in student loans just so I could do the 1 year here. And so I was like, I can't do that. I was like, I'm going to have to figure out something else. And so Coach Clayton, who was the field coach at the time for throws, he did me a solid. He didn't have to do this. He made calls to other track and field coaches to see if they had positions open or they had like scholarships or something.
Yeah.
So I took a scholarship with Kennesaw State because it was closer to home. My first semester of my sophomore year, I had a 1.0 GPA.
Nice.
I had a D, a B, and the rest were Fs.
There you go.
And
was the be like freshman year 101?
Yeah. And so they essentially, and I hit the back with a shot put, which I'm sure they were like, oh, thank God, we can medically redshirt him. And then so like they told me like I had to take all these classes, and I didn't do it. And so I took a bunch of easy classes, thinking I was like, I just got to get my GPA back up.
Yeah.
And then like I came back in, and they were like, we're going to keep you where you're at. And I was like, well, I can't. And they were like, but you also can't be on the team unless you take summer classes. And I was like, well, fuck, I can't apply for a loan now. It's like, it's too late. I was like, where am I going to get the money from? And so essentially, I was like, let me think about it. And then, like, I never called him back or anything. Yeah. I was like, I guess I'm not on the track team anymore. So I just kind of quit. Yeah. And they never, like, heard anything back from me or anything. Like, I never called them. I'm sure to this day, they're like, whatever happened to that guy? Yeah. And so, I left and came back, and I was working 2 jobs. And I was working at the shop with Dad, and I was working at the restaurant in Atlanta. And I said, this is my last chance. I'm going to go try to apply at West Georgia and just be a student. Yeah. And so I don't know if any of you have ever been to West Georgia. I don't know what it's like now. But originally where the registrar's office was, there was like 4 fucking parking spots.
Yeah,
if that. And so, like, I'm driving by, and I circle this fucking thing like 10 times. Yeah. And I was, like, on the 10th one, I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. And I rolled the window down and took the application and fucking threw it out the window. Just fucking drove off. And then I'm sitting at the shop.
What's the best part?
I'm sitting at the shop fucking running parts on the fucking CNC mill, and I get a call from this fucking lady, and I don't first of all, I don't recognize what the number is, so I pick it up and I'm like, hello, who is this? And she's like, this is so-and-so with West Georgia. And I was like, can I help you? Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you need to go ahead and register for classes. And I was like, what? And she was like, sir, you're registered with the college. And I was like, I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to say. And so I was like, I'm not interested. And I just hung up the phone.
I love that that's all it takes. Is you just have to drive by the college, just fucking throw your application out the window, and they give you a call. Oh my god!
I was like, you know what? I don't want to go to an establishment. Number 1, that doesn't have enough fucking parking spots, and number 2, just picks up applications off the side of the fucking road.
Yeah, call this guy.
Oh god!
I think I made it to like the end of my sophomore year, and I just realized, like, wow, this is not for me. I've never been good with academia and like traditional schooling. I suck. I can't study. I don't have the attention for it. Yeah. So college ended up being the most expensive gym membership that I've ever had in my life. I'm still paying for it. But my C story is one time we had all gone to the beach. It was our immediate family. Then Mama was there with us. And as we were walking out to the beach, somebody spotted a pufferfish laying in the sand. And Mama said, hey, be careful not to step on that. That's poisonous.
And as a child,
I'm thinking, oh, so like in the cartoons, how you immediately fucking die.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I won't step on that thing. And so we're doing whatever we're doing on the beach, whatever. And I'm a little bit further down from where like we set up. And I was out in that little float, that blow up boat or whatever, and a big wave like flipped me over, and I was gonna run back and be like, hey, did you see me flip over in the boat? Yeah. And as I was running, I stepped on that pufferfish, and it got stuck in my foot. And then I took another step, and I was like, oh dear God, no. And I looked down, and it stuck to my foot, and I see the face of this dead pufferfish just looking at me, and I just fish, and I run back over and scream. I'm screaming fish, like Mom and Dad are like, what? What is wrong? I'm just fish. Like they're not understanding what I'm trying to say. I finally got, because I think I'm gonna die. I'm like, oh fuck, I've been poisoned. And I was like inconsolable for like 3 hours. I was like, I haven't died yet. I thought it would be quicker than that. But we ended up, so when we left, somebody Mama took it,
took
it by the tail and threw it up in the sand dune. And as we were leaving, some other kids stepped on it.
Yeah, they like threw a frisbee up there and stepped on it.
But I just remember I stepped on that fish, and I remember just hearing Mama like, "It's poisonous."
Oh. Well, I think we got enough time to answer this one last question, then I got to get out of here.
Last question comes from Michael Camp. Shout out to Michael. He says, liposuction, option or obsession?
Interesting question.
I would say right now, in the current sphere, option. But do you remember when, like, Extreme Makeover was a thing? Like that TV show?
Oh,
Where people's families would be like, hey, we all decided that you're too fucking fat and ugly.
Yeah.
That we got, like, a team of experts to help deal with this.
Yeah, the early 2000s were crazy, right?
Yes, it was. It was very weird.
Yeah. There's some strange shit going on.
Yeah, they would just be like...
Because that was like the beginning of like reality TV,
Yeah.
and like the people were just fucking swinging for the fences.
It was a Wild West, man. Everything was on there. That show was fucking crazy because they were just like, this person was like, "Hey, I didn't want any to be on TV, and you're telling me like, we're having like an intervention about how ugly I am."
Yeah.
But so yeah, that was one of the things they always did was they'd give people lipo, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen a liposuction procedure.
It's fucking brutal.
It is. It is fucking horrifying. Like they cut like the first layer of your epidermis to get to the fat underneath, and then they just take a vacuum cleaner.
Take a fucking Kirby vacuum cleaner.
They fucking hoover that shit out. Just and then you see like the plastic bag full of like the fat that they pulled out. It looks like it's got blood vessels in it.
Yeah.
Like they pulled out some of your capillaries too.
Yeah, it's like this like sickly like yellow color, but it's also got blood in it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god, it's so fucking horrible. So I don't think that lipo is as big a thing now. I don't think you hear about it as much.
There's additional options for people like right now.
Yeah, you got the lap band surgery and gastric bypass and all that stuff. But like, lipo was the thing back then.
That was really the only way that they were doing that back then, right? Like that was your only option.
So fucking rough. And it's the thing about weight loss is like, speaking as a fat guy, my weight I capped out at 285. It's the heaviest I've ever been. Yeah. I'm down to 280 right now because I stopped drinking Red Bulls. I started drinking sugar-free Red Bull instead. So I'm trying to cut sugar out.
No.
But right before the wedding, I went on that 500-calorie a day diet, and I also was working out every day for 2 hours, and I lost like 45 pounds in a month. That is not healthy.
No.
You do not need to do that.
Well, you did it more healthy than I did it when I was trying to get in the Navy.
So the thing about weight loss is you have to make a change in your mind.
Yeah.
Like you have to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You can lose weight quickly, but I put that shit right back on because I didn't change my lifestyle.
Yeah.
I didn't change how I was thinking about things. So all these people that go and get the fat sucked out of them, by shop vac.
Yeah, you're just gonna put it right back on.
You're just gonna put it right back on, and then you went through all that. You went through all that torture for nothing. Oh my god! It's just watching it be done to somebody is like this. Can you show this to people?
Yeah, I remember. This would be the last story that I tell. So right before I joined the military, I had came out of college and I was probably weighing like 245, 250 at the time, maybe. And I came in, and when you go into the military, they have like for your specific height, they have like a maximum weight that you can weigh, or you can be under a certain like body fat percentage, right? So it was like something like 18% or something. I can't remember.
Which is pretty generous.
It's pretty generous. So I came in, and they're like, here, take like the pre-ASVAB test, which is like your aptitude test before you come to the military, and they're like, okay, you need to lose like 20 to 25 pounds. That way you can be close to the weight. That's where we'd like to have you.
Right.
And so...
Was that when you bought that sauna suit?
Yeah. So essentially what I did was like the most fucking unhealthy way to lose weight. I wasn't really working out. I refused to run. So what I thought to do was I went and bought a sauna suit, and I would sit in the bathroom and run the hot water.
Oh.
And I would sit in the bathroom, and I took a comforter, and I would sit in there with that sweatsuit on. I would wrap myself in a comforter and sit on the floor and just sweat for like an hour.
Just baking your brain cells.
Just baking. And so I did that for like a month. And I only ate like salads and like vegetarian Subway sandwiches. And then like I only drank black coffee.
Your body was immediately like something horrible has happened. Like,
and then, it gets better. So I decided I wasn't losing the weight fast enough. So I went and bought a diuretic, and I was like, I need to clean myself of pee and poop.
Yeah.
And so I started taking laxatives and a diuretic to pee and poop all the time. So I was just like constantly like flushing everything out. I felt so bad like, all the time. I just felt like sickly.
Just dehydrated and weak. You just like show up back at the recruitment office. You're like,
because I remember I showed up like 3 weeks later, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. You just crawl out of the river Styx. What the hell's wrong with you? You're like all gray.
I remember they must have been like, "Is this dude smoking crack?"
You told me I need to lose weight, so I started doing crack. Oh man!
Like, look, I need this money.
Wow. Well, I think that's about time for us today.
Yeah, I think so we had talked about this, and we actually want to get input from the audience. We were thinking of doing like a small giveaway, maybe like a t-shirt or something like that.
We could definitely make a t-shirt.
Yeah, we'd like to make a t-shirt.
We have all the resources to do that.
Yeah, we'll probably post something on Facebook here in the next couple of days, so keep a lookout for that. We're probably going to ask you guys if there's any quotes or anything that we've said on here that you like that makes you laugh, to post it in a comment or something like that. Then we'll do like a poll and see maybe what everybody's favorite comment is, or like just kind of what they want in a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And then we'll do like a raffle or like a drawing or something like that,
like a giveaway
through Facebook, like a giveaway. Yeah,
we'll hash the idea out, but We'll make a post on Facebook that's a bit more clear, but if you guys are interested in that, just be on the lookout for that post. We're coming close on the 10th episode here soon. We're going to make a more conscious effort to try and put out some more episodes.
Yes, we're sorry about the delay.
I think things are pretty much calming down for me. Wesley's a fugitive from the law, so I don't know what's going to go on with him. But we'll try to do at least 2 episodes a month?
Yeah.
If we can.
Yeah. Bi-weekly.
Yeah, we'll try to do bi-weekly. So we'll get the upload schedule under control here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in today. So again, sorry for the delay. We hope that you have enjoyed listening. We kind of came in with a different energy today.
Yeah.
Because we got started in the afternoon instead of in the morning.
Yeah.
But we hadn't seen each other, so we're just shouting at each other. But yeah, thanks again, everybody, for the continued support. We really do appreciate it.
Yes, and I liked the questions. I like that. So
yeah. If you have any more questions
or stuff you want us to talk about or anything like that, just
maybe we'll make a post dedicated to that before we record. That way, people can get their input.
Yeah, maybe we can like pin it at the top of the page or something like that, and then leave it there for.
Also,
maybe a week or
Facebook
two.
seems to think we're a restaurant.
Yeah, I've noticed that. They asked me to add a menu.
Yeah. I'm like...
I think it'd be kind of funny. I think we should add a menu.
Yeah. But what if we start getting like, do I need to make a reservation here? Or like... But yeah, thanks again, everybody. We really do appreciate it. And we hope that you've enjoyed listening today. And be on the lookout for episode 10 coming soon. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye, everybody.